June 25, 2025. A date circled on the calendar, a headline flashing across the screen. The Middle East is holding its breath, the geopolitical heart of the world, a region constantly under scrutiny. A fragile quiet hangs over a region, a deceptive stillness blanketing ancient lands. That was recently ablaze with missile fire, a stark reminder of the ever-present threat of escalation. Iran and Israel have pulled back, their forces retreating from the immediate line of fire. From the brink of war, a catastrophic outcome narrowly avoided. But this is no peace, no lasting resolution to the deep-seated conflict. Just a tense pause, a moment of respite before the storm. One wrong move, a miscalculation, a spark, could plunge millions into chaos, unleashing a wave of violence and instability. The world is watching with bated breath, fearing a conflict, a regional war with global implications. That could draw in superpowers, igniting a proxy war between global powers, disrupt oil supplies, sending shockwaves through the global economy, and spark a humanitarian disaster, creating a refugee crisis of unprecedented scale. This isn't just another flare-up, another Middle East crisis, it's a pivotal moment. It's a direct clash, a head-on collision, between two powerful nations, locked in a bitter struggle for regional dominance. Israel, with its advanced military might and suspected nuclear arsenal, a deterrent that casts a long shadow. And Iran, with its vast network, a web of influence stretching across the region. Of armed groups and nuclear ambitions, a threat that cannot be ignored. For decades their rivalry simmered, a cold war fought in the shadows, a clandestine battle for supremacy. Proxies, surrogates fighting their battles, cyber attacks, digital warfare with real-world consequences, assassinations, targeted killings that escalated the tension, but now the fighting is direct, out in the open, and the stakes are global, impacting every corner of the planet. The recent exchange was a warning, a shot across the bow. The next round could redraw, reshape the map of the modern world, altering the balance of power for generations to come, as the world waits, holding its breath. In uneasy silence, the quiet before a potential storm. Understanding how we got here, tracing the steps that led to this precipice, is crucial, vital to preventing further escalation. We must examine the events, dissect the decisions that pushed these adversaries, these longtime enemies, to the edge, the very brink of all-out war. The past month has been a story, a whirlwind of activity, of calculated risks, gambles with the fate of nations, devastating attacks, acts of aggression that threaten to spiral out of control, and last-minute interventions, desperate attempts to avert disaster. The dangers remain, lurking beneath the surface. The grievances are deeper, etched into the history of the region. And the world is waiting, watching with a mixture of hope and dread, to see what happens next, as the future hangs in the balance. This is not resolution, this is not the end. It's the sound of reloading, the preparation for the next confrontation. The balance could tip, the fragile equilibrium shattered, at any moment, and the world will be forever changed. The crisis erupted, a sudden and violent escalation that few had predicted with such speed. It began with a bold move, a calculated risk that would alter the course of the region. Israeli F-35 jets, the pride of their air force, struck deep inside Iran, a move that signaled a dramatic shift in strategy. Targeting its nuclear facilities, the heart of Iran's controversial program. The message was clear: Israel will not allow Iran under any circumstances to build a nuclear bomb, a red line that had been crossed. Iran's response was, as expected, immediate and fierce, a swift and decisive counterattack. A barrage of ballistic missiles, a storm of fire and steel rained down on Israel, testing its defenses like never before. And a major US base, a clear signal of intent and a dangerous escalation. The region was stunned, paralyzed by the sheer audacity of the attacks. As Iran showed in a display of military might, its reach and resolve, its willingness to strike at its enemies, near and far, targeting both its enemy with pinpoint accuracy and America sending a message that could not be ignored. The US retaliated, swiftly and decisively, launching powerful strikes aimed at crippling Iran's ability to wage war, on Iranian missile sites, seeking to neutralize the threat, and surviving nuclear infrastructure, hoping to set back Iran's nuclear ambitions. In days, the conflict escalated, spiraling out of control with alarming speed. From shadow war, fought in the shadows, to direct confrontation, a full-blown military clash. The old rules were shattered, the delicate balance of power irrevocably broken. This was no longer, as some had hoped, a proxy fight, a war fought by others. Military commanders, in war rooms around the globe, in all three countries, prepared for what might come next. Braced for the next attack, knowing that the stakes were higher than ever, the world panicked, watching with growing dread, fearing a war, a catastrophic conflict that could engulf, consuming everything in its path, the entire Middle East and potentially beyond. The rapid three-way exchange, a deadly dance of destruction. Israel hits Iran with precision and force. Iran hits back with a vengeance. The US strikes harder, escalating the conflict further, brought the region and the world to the brink of total war. The international community scrambled, desperately seeking a solution to prevent disaster before it was too late. The Middle East, a tinderbox of tensions, had never been closer to the abyss, to all-out war, a conflict that could change the world forever. The stakes had never been higher, the consequences never more dire. The world held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. As escalation seemed not just likely but inevitable, the region braced for what appeared to be an all-out war. Then, an unexpected mediator emerged, a figure few anticipated would step into this volatile situation. That mediator was the American president, Donald Trump. Using back channels, ones that had been established during his time in office, Trump urged Israel to stand down, to consider the broader implications of continued engagement. He argued that their military mission was accomplished, that key objectives had been met. Simultaneously, he warned Iran of overwhelming force, a response that would be swift and decisive. This was his message if attacks continued, a clear line in the sand. But he also offered a way out, a path towards de-escalation. Trump's unconventional diplomacy, a style known for its directness and unpredictability, operating outside official channels, bypassing traditional diplomatic protocols, caught everyone off guard, leaving many to question his motives and methods. He argued both sides, Israel and Iran, had made their point, that each had demonstrated their capabilities and resolve. He warned that further conflict would inevitably lead to mutual destruction, a catastrophic outcome for all involved. After tense negotiations, conducted through intermediaries and phone calls, a ceasefire was announced, a fragile agreement brokered under immense pressure. It was not a peace deal, a comprehensive resolution to the underlying issues, but a halt to direct attacks, a temporary cessation of hostilities. Iran stopped its missiles, ceasing its barrage of strikes. Israel and the US paused airstrikes, halting their retaliatory measures. The world exhaled, relieved that the immediate threat of wider war had been averted. But the ceasefire was fragile, a delicate balance easily disrupted. A pause, not an end to the deep-seated animosity. Forces remained on alert, poised to react at a moment's notice, and the rhetoric stayed hostile, with both sides continuing to trade accusations. The agreement was based on fear, on the threat of escalation, not trust, not on any genuine desire for lasting peace. Trump stopped the bleeding, preventing an immediate catastrophe, but the wound remains open, festering with unresolved grievances. The risk of renewed conflict, of a return to open warfare, is dangerously high, a constant threat looming over the region. Direct attacks have stopped, but the shadow war rages on Iran's proxies. Hezbollah militias in Syria and Iraq. The Houthis remain active, threatening Israel and US interests. Hezbollah, with its vast missile arsenal, is Israel's most dangerous neighbor, always ready to open a second front. The Houthis disrupt shipping in the Red Sea. Militias in Iraq and Syria target US bases. These groups keep the region on edge, ensuring the pressure never truly lifts. Any attack by a proxy could unravel the fragile calm. Iran uses these forces for plausible deniability, harassing enemies while avoiding direct war. For Israel and the US, every proxy attack poses a dilemma: respond and risk escalation, or hold back and appear weak. The shadow war keeps the region a tinderbox. The ceasefire paused the violence, but the core conflict remains. At the heart, Iran's nuclear program. Israel sees an Iranian bomb as an existential threat. Iran sees its program as a right and a shield. Airstrikes set Iran back, but the knowledge and will to rebuild persist. The clock is ticking. Israel's top security concern is far from resolved. Beyond nukes, this is a struggle for regional dominance. Iran's push for influence versus Israel's determination to contain it. The rivalry plays out in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. Decades of mistrust and hostile rhetoric make real diplomacy nearly impossible. No embassies, no direct talks, only suspicion. Until something fundamental changes. This is just an interlude before the next crisis. This conflict's impact is global. The Strait of Hormuz, vital for oil, could be closed, spiking prices and risking recession. A wider war would unleash a humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced and neighboring countries overwhelmed. Global powers, US, Russia, China, could be drawn in, risking superpower confrontation. Instability would empower extremist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Terrorist threats could surge worldwide. The consequences would reach every doorstep. This is not just their problem, it's everyone's. June 25, 2025. The Middle East stands on a knife's edge. The ceasefire holds, but the silence is deceptive. Drones buzz, agents work, scientists persist. The recent escalation was a wake-up call. The next crisis could be even faster, even deadlier. Trump's intervention bought time, but the core issues remain. Israel's resolve, Iran's ambitions, and the proxy network all endure. These are existential disputes, not easily solved. The world's attention may fade, but the risk does not. Any spark, a border clash, a miscalculation, a nuclear breakthrough, could reignite war. The next time, there may be no pulling back. The choices made now will shape the future of the region and the world. The story isn't over, the next chapter is being written right now.